What is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in and listening again. I'm your host, Mcfarline, and today we have another special guest by the name of Ben Raw. Ben Raw is an experimental producer slash artist slash engineer. You do videos too, right, Ben?
I do, yeah.
You got a whole lot of skills under the belt. Ben, how you doing? How you feeling? Thank you so much for being here.
I feel great today. How about you?
I'm good. I got outside. I got some sunlight. I got some fresh air, and I got a full belly, so I'm good.
Nice. Me too.
So thank you so much for being here, right? You're the first experimental artist that I'm having on the podcast that I'm speaking with. So maybe I can have you shine some light for people who don't know what experimental music is exactly, or even what your experimental music is, right? Could you explain it to them a little bit?
I could explain my type of experimental.
Okay.
I've always been inspired by like noise and just like testing out different sounds with beats I made. But I also like try to make it into like a good song structure too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of like experimenting with whatever sounds good to me, and then like I think it sounds good, I want to share it with people. So I don't know. It's just kind of like against the grain of like mainstream, I guess, is what I'd say experimental is.
When you're making your song, right? You ever get to a point where any of your songs, I don't want to just say one particular, right, but any of your songs, you get to a point where you maybe feel like you kind of weirded yourself out or exceeded your expectation with trying to go against the grain?
I definitely have songs that I haven't released, and I go back to them just to see if I can rework them. But it's like I don't even know where to start because it's just like, these sounds don't blend together, because like when you're making a song, you need every sound to, kind of bounce off each other, you want them to coexist well. So yeah, I definitely have stuff that's like a little too weird that I couldn't figure out, like time signature or whatnot. But I don't know. I always find a way, it seems. So
you make experimental music. You want to go against the grain. You find yourself making a lot of demos, right? And when I say demos, I mean songs that you ended up completing. Is there kind of some rough, not even, kind of the same version of a lot of the songs that you're making or putting out or trying to put out?
I make hella demos. For a while now, I've been making I have a dry erase board that's really helped me. And I'll be like, okay, I need like a LP. Let's do 12 songs. But I want to double or triple that amount of songs just so I can pick out the good stuff. So it's like, I think for one album I made like 30 demos and only like 11 songs got on that album. But like something like an EP like Buying Gravity that was like such a spur of the moment, like let's make this album in less than a month. And then there were like no other demos for that album. It was just like all the songs that I made it to that EP.
Okay. So with these demos, do you ever see yourself, are they a part of that group then that is like, these are a little too weird for me to even kind of figure out, or are they just simply demos?
I think it all goes off like following your intuition. I think like if you think it sounds good and you think people will like it, then I'm going to be working on this demo again. Usually I just make demos in my room, and then like if I want like professional sounding recordings, I'll buy some studio time. But the demos have to be good. Everything has to be ready before the studio, because that stuff costs so much. I don't want to waste any time, any money if I go to a professional studio.
So what percentage of the stuff that you have out right now was made professionally rather than in your room?
One album.
Okay, that's a lot though.
Everything else was like in my bedroom and stuff. Right? I've been doing that since I was 16. So
okay. So where did the name Ben Raw come in the mix of all of this? You're making music, you start producing. When do you say, okay, I'm gonna call myself Ben Raw?
Ben Raw came from I don't know. I like a lot of like raw type of music. It kind of like goes off of my last name too.
Yeah.
But I also noticed like I've developed this style that's super raw, not polished. I don't think perfection's good necessarily. I think kind of imperfection is perfection because it shows the human flaws. And when we're in this such a digital age, everything can be like too perfect at times.
Mm.
So I think, that's kind of where it comes from.
Okay. Yeah, that's a nice sentiment. Is that something that you try to keep, you know, true throughout the music, or are those things kind of separate? If you see what I'm saying.
Um, I make the songs, and then if I have like mistakes that sound cool, I'm gonna keep them in.
Hmm.
So it's never like, but if they're really bad mistakes, I'm gonna delete that shit and like just make something new. But yeah, I don't know. I never think about stuff when I'm making the music. It's very like intuitive, I guess.
Hmm. Do you find yourself drawing a line? Because if I'm understanding kind of correctly in how you described the name a little bit, you as a person and Ben Raw as the experimental artist, right? And we're gonna get into what you classify yourself as in a little bit, right? But
Yeah.
do you see yourself kind of drawing a line between you and Ben Raw, or is that intuitiveness, that creativity, things of that nature, is it all just one?
I like to see the alias Ben Raw as like a separate entity
Hmm.
from who I am because, I don't know. It's just like an artist name right now.
Hmm.
But I use it as like a moniker for like, oh, this is Ben Raw's production. You know, kind of what you're going to get.
Hmm.
And you're going to get something like really human. I think I like to put it that way.
Okay. Outside of the imperfections, right? Because this is an interesting angle that you're kind of coming at it from, especially experimental music. What human qualities does experimental music bring to you, or are you bringing to the sound outside of those imperfections?
I think it's more of how I do the process. Like I'm using a lot of electronics and all of that, but I'm also using like acoustic drums at times.
Mm-hmm.
So that has a lot of human feel. The electronic drums, I make my beats like that too. So it's like you're not gonna get like quantized beats like all the time. I think I put out like one song that had like everything was quantized, and it just felt like super robotic and not a lot of human feel. Like the kind of like you're kind of off like by a millisecond, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I mean.
Okay, so in kind of understanding where you're taking this approach to experimental music from, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you classify yourself as a producer or an artist? Because it seems like you're doing the bulk of the work on a lot of the things that you're putting out, right? Yeah, where are you classifying this as Ben Raw the artist, Ben Raw the producer, or are you the artist and the alias Ben Raw is the producer? Like, where is all of that live for you?
I'd say I'm an artist producer because not only do I like the behind the scenes stuff, I think it's way cool. Like I love creating, but I also like to perform live.
Mm-hmm.
In my old band, like we went on tour, we played a lot of shows. I just like to do everything. Like I don't know, I don't know if it's like a control thing. I hope it's not because I learned like working with others is great, and you should always do that. But I don't know. I'd say yeah, artist producer.
Artist
I don't
producer.
know if that answered your question.
No, I get it because you started with talking about the band you were in before. You have experiences and things that you enjoy of what you're actually doing, and there's aspects that you have gained by having the opportunity and the time to do it by yourself, right? So
Yeah.
you you have formed a shape, for yourself and what it is that you want to do. You have the layers and the perspectives of how and why you're doing what you're doing laid out. But it comes from being able to say, hey, I played with this band for this amount of time and I enjoyed that. Then I was able to, make a project on my own and I also enjoyed that. So I know if I get myself involved with, XYZ group in the future, this is the role I want to play.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes from like all the mistakes I made along the way too. I think like you're not making mistakes, you're not going to be able to make improvements,
Mm-hmm.
So like the last band, like even like example A would be like the name of it. Like you're gonna make a name that you put two words together and no one even knows how to pronounce it.
Mm-hmm.
And no one even knows the story behind the name. So it's like that's one example of a mistake. And I made a lot along the way on like the behind the scenes and also on stage. But I'm glad I was able to make such mistakes because I wouldn't have the experience or knowledge I do now of like, oh, I need to strategize. I need to think out and like not be pushing music like all the time. And like it doesn't need to be like that, you know?
Mm-hmm. So where do you find yourself in that space now? Do you think you're in a healthier space with, just going about the process of music, right? Or do you see yourself still in that kind of transformative state, right? And now when I ask this question, I'm not asking to say like you're settled or anything like that, right? But I think artists can get to a place where they can, I don't even want to use the word comfortable either, but the words, I can't find the right word because I was going to say expectation either. And I'm always mentioning JPEG Mafia on the podcast, but I think he's a good example.
Oh, yeah, I love him. Yeah, he's great.
A lot of the things that, I'm talking about and you could just see it in JPEG, right?
Yeah.
But you take some.
Like he's had the similar process where it's like, he didn't start blowing up until like Veteran came out, I think.
Yeah.
So,
and
he put out like what, 8, 10 different mixtapes before that.
Right. And you mentioned how you made mistakes along the way. I'm sure JPEG has his fair share of mistakes or things he wish he'd done differently or, things that maybe were look differently now, whatever the case is, right?
It's like, I'm always going to be learning. And if I don't have that perspective, then I'm going to be stuck.
Right.
So I know I don't know everything, but I'm going to try to learn it.
Right.
And I feel very confident in the place I am now. I feel like I'm really coming out of my shell because of all those mistakes I made. And like, I wouldn't be able to get to where I am right now with a very confident state, very like open to new sounds. Like, I think I tweeted recently about like, I might be like ditching experimental for a bit.
Right.
Because I want to make more like, I don't want to say pop because it's still going to be like weird shit, but I just want to make stuff that like people can drive to, dance to, smoke to, like stuff that is more accessible, I think, You
didn't say anything for me to like disagree with, right? But I see where you're coming from with the idea of, okay, I want to take a step back from experimental for a little while, right?
Yeah.
I think that it's interesting, and I think it's maybe because I'm a little biased because I've seen your work, I've seen what goes into that. You've gotten, professional opinions and quality and everything that you're doing, right? So I don't even think you stepping back from experimental is something that needs to happen or how it should be framed, so to speak, where you could just come out and be like, hey, here's something pop. Still experimental, try something different, but here's some pop. Here's some shoegaze, man. Like you just try anything and it's experimental.
That's a part of experimental that's so beautiful is like I'm allowing myself to create whatever the fuck I want.
Right.
And that's one of the joys, that's one of why I pick music is because there's not necessarily any rules. I don't have to make like the same like rock record anymore because I think I was doing that because I don't know why I was doing that for so long. I think, and by the way, the old band, I should have ended that like way sooner than I allowed it to last for.
Right.
But whatever. It goes and ties in with those mistakes and experiences,
Yeah.
But being tied down to like one genre, and I feel like I am with experimental. But it's like I gotta realize experimental couldn't allow me to go to different genres, you know?
Yeah, and
So,
I don't see you as kind of typecasted in experimental, you know. I think
oh, you don't?
experimental, not at least in my opinion, right? I think
Oh,
what you started with and what you introduced to me was interesting. And I think it's interesting enough to the point that you can say, here, try this too, and in knowing that it's different. And I also take that from what you said before in the understanding. You have a why for everything, right? You have a why for why you're producing. You have a why
yeah,
for why you're named Ben Raw. You have a why for why you're going to promote things a certain way and things like that, right? So I think you
yeah,
have enough of the knowledge to say, hey, yeah, I make some experimental, but I decided that, again, I'm going to try pop. And people, or even people like myself, are like, okay, Ben Raw tried pop, and let me see what this is about, and then move forward, because it always has a level of interesting to it. You know, what Cockroach, right, was the song that you were pushing for
oh yeah, cockroach, yeah,
a while, right? You just take that song for as an example, and if you're listening right now, pause the podcast and go look up Cockroach by Ben Raw and check it out to really understand what I'm saying and what we're talking about right now. But that song, there's layers to it, right? It's not easy to make a song and have there be layers to it. It's not easy to make even a production and have it have layers to it. So let alone to make a whole song and claim it or say, hey, this is experimental music, and then have that actually be backed up by the product that you're producing. I think that kind of puts you in a place, especially with experimental music, where the sky's the limit. Like, okay, if I could do experimental, I could probably make a fire, drill beat, or I could probably make a fire lo-fi beat. Like, whatever the case is, whatever you want to try.
yeah. I appreciate that, man. Like,
Yeah, it's no problem.
I know I'm not putting myself in a box, but like, I mean, I think I make weird stuff sometimes, but I
Right.
think it could also like be accessible if I, form that with pop music or like hip
Right.
hop beats.
And it really, all it comes down to is to trying. And I think the fact that you are even able to say, hey, I want to take this and mix it with that, puts you in that space that I just explained, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. But as for like Ben Raw and like these other kind of genres, I think I have a better idea. Like, oh, if I'm gonna make like a gabber rap album, I'm gonna have a different name probably.
mhm.
And like I just got back from Austin and we were recording an album, and I think this is gonna be like more R&B vibes. Nicole has this like doom metal band called Dirt Pile. And like I always had like rock or punk or experimental under my belt. So I'm like, hey, let's do something different. Let's do like more R&B vibes. I sampled a lot of like, yeah, what's that band? I sampled Cool in the Gang and Erica Badu
Okay.
and what's that band? Was it Magnificent? No,
I don't know. You
man,
gotta
I
be.
forgot. But the drums on that record are amazing.
You're right. So I was actually talking about Erica Badu today when I was trying to stream for a little bit, but it kept crashing.
Yeah, yeah.
You also made me think about this podcast in particular is so fun for me, right? As a community, right, yourself included, everybody in that community has a special understanding, I would say, I guess, of everything that's going on and what we're talking about, right? Because they've kind of seen it come to life. They've seen people promote it, make changes, or even produce things in other ways, shapes, and forms, right?
Yeah.
So it's fun for me to know. I'm probably never, ever going to see this moment, right? But it's fun for me to know that there's somebody out there in the community that, I've been able to cultivate with the help of people like you, Reg, Stone Mason, More
Comfortable
Serenity,
dude.
right? Comfortable Dude, right? All these different people, right?
Yeah.
It's such a fun feeling for me to think like they're gonna sit back, listen to this, and have this moment of just like, wow, I really understand what Mcfarline is talking about with Ben Raw. right now because I've been there in these small instances, you know? Maybe it was a beat battle. Maybe it was a different interview. Maybe you just...
That one battle I was in was tight. I like that sample you gave.
What was it? I can't even remember.
I don't know. It sounded like sound like something from The Godfather.
Something from The Godfather. You know, I could go back and probably find it. I wish I could remember off the top of my head. But that's why it's fun for me, just because I know people are going to go have those moments. I'm sorry I went on about that for a minute. But
it's so much fun, and I wish you did it more often.
I mean, I'm trying to, you know. We got the second episode out today, right? We have another one lined up with Doom. I got another one with artist out from Connecticut. I got this one with you. I got some more set up for Friday. So I'm trying to plan it out. It's just about me being consistent and getting out of my own damn head about it.
Like, stay positive, stay productive. Like that's all you really need.
Just a little bit of effort, you know. And today's been a pretty productive day, actually. You know, I got the podcast out. I tried to stream, it didn't work, but that's okay. I'm recording this one, so it's like it's been an overall.
You had a low, but you're hitting high.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of music, Ben, right? What fuels your fire? You know, what's bringing you to come back to music, or what are you even using to, you know, take a break from music?
Like inspiration?
Well, more so, what do you do outside of music? You know,
what do I do other than music?
Yeah, like let's say you making a beat, you get a little frustrated, or you're like, I'm over this for a moment. What are you gonna do?
I go take a walk, or like I ride the bus, and I like get inspired by just like seeing other people's lives. And if it's not like other people inspiring me, like strangers and everything, it's usually like I look into myself, or by like going on a hike or something. Yeah.
And does that come out through your music a lot when you have those moments, or is it more just like just a separation, you know?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like, it's just kind of like to take a break from making music, because I want to go like see other things. I want to experience new things. But like, it also inspires me when I come back from doing those things. Like cockroach has like several different meanings. I think one of them stands out the most is that like when I was living in Austin, there's like tons of fucking cockroaches, and they were just fucking everywhere. And that's one of the reasons why I named the song Cockroach. But like also like Corona was just hitting. And then there's also like a lot of like imposter syndrome within myself. I felt like a cockroach. And I don't mean to like give meaning to my song, because I like the audience to make their own mind for that, you know?
Right.
But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you're a people watcher, right? Which is...
I mean, I don't like stare at people. That's a little weird.
No.
But like...
But you know, you go on the bus and you let the world pass you by. That's people watching. You know, you.
I guess.
How would you classify it then?
No, I think when I think of people watching, I think of like people just sitting there like staring at you.
But that, I mean, yeah.
I guess it's like if you get caught staring, it's
but no, a little creepy. I think there's a difference between getting caught staring, right? and people watching, right? Because if you like go to the mall and you sit on like the bench and you're just looking at the people walking around and interact, that's not staring. That's people watching. But if you like, you know,
is that socially acceptable?
I mean,
sometimes I don't know if it is or not. But like,
to me, sitting on the bench at a park, mall, library, and watching the people do their thing in a respectable fashion. Listen, as long as you're not like whispering or yelling obscenities or doing anything inappropriate.
Yeah, being weird or like,
You know, there's a clear difference. Like I said from the start, there's a clear difference from
if
going
you got
out.
Nice clothes on, it's not weird at all.
It's not, okay, but if if you're looking kind of scruffy and then somebody might say something to you, okay?
It's us, yeah.
But I mean, I like people watching too. I think people watching is fun.
Oh yeah, especially like when you think about like, you got your own life and like your ego is like, you're all about it. But then you got to think like, oh, these other people have their whole background, whole culture, like everything behind them that you don't see and you never really think about
at all.
But like being on the bus, you just kind of like get introduced to all that. It's a cool experience, you know. And I don't think bus drivers. Yeah, I think they're underrated.
Yeah, no,
They're
bus
definitely
drivers
like
are cool.
one of the best people, and like really need a lot of them.
Some of them, they're not cool, but there's a decent amount of cool bus drivers
I mean,
out
yeah,
there.
but they put up with so much shit that's like,
Yeah,
but they
yeah.
still like keep their cool, you know.
As much as they can, pass. Yeah. You made me think of something that I think about from time to time is the bubble in which like we live in as people, right?
Yeah,
Like me right now, I would say people don't know how big this area actually is, but I would say my bubble is from like the door to maybe the wall next to me, right? And that's not much space, right? And
right.
obviously my bubble can expand as I walk around and things like that, right? But you talk about the bus, you get introduced to all these other people from walks of life, all these different things. But that takes the opportunity for you to allow other people to be in your bubble and
Yeah,
have
just be vulnerable. Like I realized in the past year or two is like vulnerability. There's strength in it, you know.
Yeah.
And once you let your guard down, you start sharing like, oh, this is what really happened to me. Like you kind of grow from it, you know.
Yeah.
It's you become more confident.
Yeah, I mean, was there ever a time where you weren't, comfortable with even in your bubble or, expanding it or allowing people to come into it or?
Oh yeah. For a long time, I was like such a control freak, but I also like struggled with depression a lot of my life. And it didn't take until like 2020 or like 2019 where I started to realize like, I don't need to be doing everything by myself. It's not about that. Because like everyone's got their strengths and weaknesses. So if we can link ours together, you got your strength that my weaknesses and vice versa. So it's like you can make something like totally new and crazy just by linking up with a whole different life, you know?
That's one of my biggest things lately. And it's always been one of my biggest things. Even in like high school, I would tell people, I would try, to just kind of form a group. That's something that I talk about kind of often in my personal life that I wish I cultivated a group of people that I was making work with now. So I was
I wish I did that. And that's why I like your community so much because it's like these people that you have in your community are super nice. They're driven and they're always like open to talk. You know, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, people in the community, they're fantastic. And I want the community to continue, to grow because I do see how great everybody is. I want everybody to continue to, put in the work that they're putting in. But that's the secret. Yo, anybody listening right now, right? I know I'm not, millions of views, even thousand, whatever the case is, right? But I can tell you one thing that a lot of people who are successful that either run podcasts, that are producers, rappers, singers, top streamer, that it was all done with a group effort. One of my favorites right now that I'm always watching is the H3 podcast. Do you know how much it inspires me to see this man, Ethan Klein, sit down with his wife every Friday to do a podcast? Like that's the freaking life. What he's sitting next to his wife, millions of views on YouTube.
He's got a whole team like doing things that he doesn't have to do.
Exactly. Like, he's just doing his podcast. But he wouldn't be able to do the podcast the way he does without the people and even without his co-host, even though it's his wife. Yeah. So there's a lot of. I think we're getting into a different conversation, which is good. I'm happy to have this conversation.
Of course, yeah.
I think a lot of people kind of get caught up in that. I think a lot of people don't realize the benefit of, like you said, kind of letting their guard down and saying to themselves, "Okay, this person is coming and saying, hey, I want you to do. Just give it a try. Who cares? You know?"
Exactly. Like if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Like. There's so many people that do want to work with you, but it's like hard to get your name out sometimes and like get like people to understand what you do have. But like once you meet the right people, like push your pride away, get your ego aside. Like, well, let's work together. We'll make something cool.
Right. I think the other important part of that is people have to not be afraid to ask people for stuff. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and say, "Yeah, I got this idea. You want to be a part of it?" And if that person don't, it's about persistence at that point. If that person don't follow through, the next person will follow through. If that next person, you just keep going.
And be okay to like understand that you can't take it all on your own.
Right.
And you can't do it all by yourself,
Yeah, it's possible. It's just hard. You're gonna be drained by the end of it, Like
totally.
That's it. With streaming sometimes I have that same issue. Like streaming a bunch of hours and then sitting down and then editing a video. It's just like, damn, can I get up for a second?
And streaming takes a lot of energy. Like I tried to do it like back in December 2020. Man, that shit is like, you have to be entertaining for like at least like 2 hours.
Right. You gotta have energy.
Like you want to go at least like 6.
Right. To even make something kind of tangible happen. But that's where the layers come in. You got to be entertaining, but you also got to be consistent. You got to be consistent, but you also got to be organized. You got to be organized, but you also got to have energy. Like, there's so many different things that you got to make sure is at least dialed to like a 7 at least. That's minimum.
Of course, yeah.
So it's like
you got to be on your toes, yeah.
And it's about finding that style of what does your 7 look like, because I know my 7 is completely different than somebody else's. That's like let me not even get into the logistics of all that. But
man, my 7 is like if I have enough caffeine in me and like I have everything done for the day, I can definitely get to work and get this all done.
Right.
Like sometimes a song can take like, I don't know, 12 minutes or it could take 12 months. You never know. And it really depends on how you feel about yourself and your energy. So
yeah, you say drink a coffee, right?
Drink a coffee or 10. Yeah.
I find myself lacking energy so much throughout the day, all the time, that I'm like, man, because I only recently started drinking coffee again. I stopped drinking coffee for a long time. I was drinking tea exclusively, but even that has a lot of sugar and stuff. But basically, I'm saying this because I find myself lacking energy throughout the day a lot. And that's one of the main reasons why I don't stream, is because I'm like, damn, I want to stream, but I'm kind of tired. Like, I want to lay down.
Well, they say breakfast is the most important meal.
And I mean, actually, I was going to say I don't eat breakfast. I do eat breakfast. I have like a smoothie. I have an oatmeal. I have stuff like that. This morning, I made myself like a little smoothie bowl. And I had that for breakfast. Yeah. So I'm eating. Sometimes even after I eat breakfast, I'm still like, damn, I'm tired.
Yeah, I just like chug cold brew like all fucking day. And I'm like,
I wish I could do that. I wish I could be the person that's like, let me just.
You don't want to be, dude. You need nutrients, not just coffee.
Right. Right. You don't want. That's the path I don't want to walk down, because it's not like coffee's not bad, It's not, but it's not the healthiest thing to like drink every day. I
heard it causes delirium too.
What is delirium?
Don't take my word. I'm just like.
What is delirium? All right, this has officially turned into the Joe Rogan experience.
I heard from a guy.
Yeah. So I'm reading here. Jamie, pull that up. Delirium. Let's see. Do you know what delirium is?
It means like confusion.
Okay. I figured.
Let's not go full Joe Rogan here. I don't want
to. Listen. One of the things that I've been thinking about is people say a lot of crazy shit on the internet. I've been watching a lot more political streams and stuff. Actually, no, I've just been watching Hassan, and that led me to another person. But through watching Hassan and that other person, I think her name is like Carter or something on Twitch. They watch
Carter.
I think I'm saying his name wrong. It starts with a C, but they watch these people like Ben Shapiro, They
Oh God.
watch Steven Crowder. They watch Joe
Fuck
Rogan.
those guys.
They watch Jordan Peterson. What would we do without men? Where would we be without men? Men are doing impossible things, right?
That's crazy. Like I don't fuck with those guys. I mean, I like his song. He like helped me understand politics more.
Right.
Which I think is his main goal, really. But like, I don't know.
Do you know who Jordan Peterson is?
I hear his song talk about him.
Okay, that's the only reason why I know who he is. There's been a controversy with him recently, but
well, we don't have to get into it.
I mean, I'm fine getting into it. I don't care.
What was it?
So the controversy was that this is a little much. So before I say the Jordan Peterson controversy, let me say this. Through watching Hassan and all these other streamers and stuff and seeing all these kind of right-wing, alt-right people, whatever you want to call them, right?
Yeah.
I realized like people say whatever they want on the internet and like essentially get away with it. Like no, Joe Rogan said some nonsense the other day and like he's fine. You know, people got in a little tizzy about it, but you know, he's fine.
But the thing is, like, he has such a following, and you know, just like following Hassan, like you're just gonna like regurgitate whatever the fuck they told you to your friends.
Right.
So it's like, are you thinking for yourself? You gotta know that you should think for yourself at all times.
Which that's a totally different conversation in itself. But that's the problem with the people like Steven Crowder, Joe Rogan, Ben Shapiro, stuff like that. They don't leave that room to let people know, like, hey, I'm just giving you information. Do whatever you want after that. But the controversy with Jordan Peterson stems from a tweet, I believe. Stems from a tweet with him. Brace yourself, all right, Ben? And brace yourself, listener.
I'm ready.
It starts with a tweet of him saying that gay conversion therapy is moral grandstanding, right? Which is crazy, right? So,
Thank God.
Because it's being banned in somewhere in Canada, I believe. I don't know if it's all of Canada or specifics about it, but it's being banned in Canada. And he thinks that's a moral grandstanding, right? So
Dude, go back to the fucking like 1800s. I don't know. Like, that shit is so weird.
Where would we be without men? Like, I don't. That's Jordan Peterson again, right? They make fun of him because he sounds like Kermit the Frog,
a turtle.
Yeah, so you know, the men are doing impossible things.
Okay.
So where would we be? So Ethan Klein, right, seen this tweet. And he thought to himself, I don't really want to be associated with this because he did an interview with Jordan Peterson some time ago.
I stumbled across that video a few days ago, and then I heard that he deleted it today.
Yeah, exactly. He took it down. So the whole thing is now him and Jordan Peterson and Ethan got to talking and stuff like that on Twitter. And now Hassan invited him on the podcast with him and Ethan on Leftovers. I don't know if they're actually going to have a conversation. I kind of stopped paying attention.
I think they will. I mean, they got their Leftovers show.
Yeah, I would love it. But people have an issue with that because they're like, how are you going to take the interviews down, but then invite him back on to then talk to him again? Which I think is kind of unfair to say because...
Yeah, well, it's also like, why are you deleting the video in the first place? Like, why not just keep it up? Because that's what you did. Everyone, like, and someone probably has it downloaded.
Right. Which at that point, that's here nor there, you know? But the reason
and it's not like, was he in support of Jordan Peterson in that video?
So he wasn't, I don't think he was necessarily in support of Jordan Peterson in that video. And Ethan has made a change from being more on the right to now a leftist, essentially, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, if he has his son doing,
okay, right. So he I don't think at the time he was necessarily like in support of Jordan Peterson. I just think I think he thought he was an interesting guy. I think he thought he would be interesting to talk to. So he did. And there was no contention in that interview. And that's why he wanted to take it down, because more recently, Jordan Peterson has been making, I believe, transphobic, misogynistic, and, different comments like that, homophobic comments like that.
Yeah. Hateful shit. Yeah.
That Ethan didn't want to be a part of the pipeline of that, which makes perfect sense to me. You had this interview out there. It's not really too much of an issue, but somebody could find it and kind of get the wrong idea because maybe they follow you, maybe they follow where would we be without men, and then next thing you know, they're completely alt-right, spewing the same stuff that Jordan Peterson is spewing. But I think if you bring him on now, it's different. You could challenge him. You could question him. You could say, yo, explain that for me, and things like that. So I don't see it as a problem at all.
And I guess, people don't think about, that video was, in 2018, 16?
I don't even know. I know it's old, though.
But, yeah, exactly. And so, I don't think people, understand, people can change. And I don't think, after seeing, what Ethan has been doing lately, you can clearly see he doesn't think like that.
Right.
So it's I don't know. I don't think he should have deleted the video. I mean, why care about that? But it's also I understand with his position. I don't want to be associated with someone like that.
Right.
So I don't know.
Hassan came out actually today, I believe, and said that he wouldn't have deleted the video, right?
Oh, really?
And I get why Ethan deleted the video. I probably would have deleted the video. I probably would have took it down, especially if
you don't want to be associated with hateful people like that.
Especially if he said something.
Your life doing shit like that?
Yeah, but Jordan Peterson wasn't always like that. A lot of these thoughts that Ethan are referring to now they're new. He thinks that forced monogamy. Jordan Peterson thinks forced monogamy should be a thing. It's there's things like that he's saying more recently that Ethan's
How do you force monogamy? I guess through marriage, I guess.
And and that was a take that I had heard earlier, and I didn't really see it that way at first. But honestly, I'm not even going to sit here and speak on forced monogamy because I don't know too much about that specifically.
Right.
I could kind of guess, but I don't want to guess and be wrong. But it does sound like kind of a crazy thing to promote a little bit, to say, hey, and it's mainly coming from the place of women should be doing this thing. So it's hey,
it's just another thing, men trying to control women.
Exactly. So it's
stop that shit. It's so annoying.
And that's where Ethan's coming from. That's where Ethan's people don't have to deal with this. Why are you attacking the, minority when you're this, white guy with a lot of stain?
Exactly. Right, another old white dude having his I gotta control everybody opinions.
Have you heard about how he took a sip? So do you know that Jordan Peterson was on an all-meat diet before?
Oh, I don't know much about Jordan Peterson.
So let me tell you a little story about Jordan Peterson.
An all-meat diet?
He was on an all-meat diet. Okay, and you can
crazy.
You can see when he's on this all meat diet because he just looks like a puffed up piece of steak at all times, and I'm not joking.
Oh, no.
And I've only recently started. I don't even follow Jordan Peterson. I really only know about Jordan Peterson because of Ethan and people like Ethan and Hassan talking about him and stuff like that.
I bet he was the raw meat kind of guy too.
But I wouldn't be surprised if he was. I would not be surprised if he was. But during his all-meat diet, he apparently took a sip of apple cider. And I quote, okay, Jordan Peterson said after this sip of apple cider, he felt a sense of impending doom. He said he took a sip of...
in his ass or what?
Just overall. He took a sip of apple cider and just literally, I think he just couldn't function for a month. He just was out of commission while he was on
How
his
long
own.
was he eating this meat for?
I wish I had the answer to that question too.
When I eat too much meat, I'm like, dude, I just gotta get a salad right now. I can't do this.
Or go for a walk or just like lay down for a minute. But you
Yeah.
have a sip of apple cider and you're just like, you slip away.
Die. That's
Oh my
crazy.
God. Yeah, that, I don't know. Jordan Peterson, man, where would we be if men are doing impossible things? So, but, man, this is gonna be a good one for all the political heads.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge political person, but I don't want to say that because politics affects everybody. You
Right.
should always be in the know.
Right, you
and
should
understand your view and not just like what you're being told. So yeah.
That's where I'm at on it. It's just about being informed and just knowing what's going on.
Exactly.
And, Hassan has turned me into a huge advocate for a lot of different things that I could speak about for hours, and I don't get to usually pull out my
Hassan card.
or no, the Jordan Peterson impression because I practice that on my off time.
Oh yeah, men not doing impossible things.
Exactly.
I like it. It sounds like a turtle. I like
It's literally. I can't. There's more phrases that he has that are so. Gay conversion therapy is moral grandstanding.
I think that's still around too in like some states.
Right, which is why saying it's a moral grandstanding is just it's weirdo shit. But yeah, I don't usually get to pull out my politic card like that. So thank you, Ben Raw.
No worries.
That was a lot of fun. That definitely got the dopamine going. But I have took up enough of your time. This has been a great interview. So fun.
We could keep talking, bro.
Yeah, for sure. Let me just let's for the sake of keeping the interview short or under the hour mark, let's wrap it up.
My name is Ben Raw. I grew up in Great Falls, Montana. Lived in Austin for a bit. I'm in Portland now, but I want y'all to check out my music. Go check out Cockroach. Go check out the other sound design projects I put out. I got 2 albums coming out. One's more of like a lo-fi hip hop tape. I'm getting like 12 other artists on that album. Another album I'm making with my friend Nicole. It's gonna be like more like R&B vibes. And then I'm already have plans for the 3rd record, but I don't know when that's gonna come out. Probably like 2024 or 5 maybe.
You got the hot exclusive here first, everybody. Album coming 2024, all right? You heard it on the podcast first. Everybody, make sure that you go check out Ben Raw. Make sure some links will be in the description of this podcast so you could go give him a listen. It's Ben Raw on Spotify and Apple Music as well. Ben Raw on YouTube. Make sure you go show him some love. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me, Ben Raw. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, bro.
It's no problem. It's no problem. We'll definitely have to have you on again when these projects start dropping.
Oh, for sure. I think later this year, actually.
Yeah. So for just definitely, we'll do something for that. Either the stream or another interview, whatever the case may be.
For sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man.